Hello again, my meddling Scooby Doo fans, and welcome to another review into the world of Scooby Doo. So in my last video, I continued my reviews of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo with the review of Season 2, Episode 3C of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We talked about how it was another terrible short, nothing new, same old, due to the fact that there was no villain, no motive, no atmosphere, and a weak setting. But of course today, I'll be covering Season 2, Episode 4A of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, titled Scooby's Three Ding-a-Ling Circus, which was released on November 29th, 1980. The short synopsis of the first short is, the guys attend a circus but can't afford admission, so they get jobs selling peanuts and hot dogs, but when they eat the profits, they get in big trouble with the boss. So normally I would tell you guys what DVD I'm watching this particular episode of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo on. Unfortunately, Seasons 2 through 4 of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo have yet to be released on any sort of physical media or DVD. So, just like in my past Season 2 reviews of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, and for future Season 2, 3, and 4 reviews of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, and for the purposes of this review, I will be watching this short online, so apologies in advance for the quality of the short. Now, as far as the short's reception is concerned, I'm not really sure how fans feel about this particular short, but considering I and most people in the Scooby Doo community consider the shorts to be terrible, I don't really think they're viewed very highly. So, with that being said, what's my personal opinion on this particular short of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo? Do I think this is a good and underrated short? Do I think it's another terrible short that continues the trend of this series and the trend of these shorts? Or is it an average, decent, middle-of-the-road short? Well, let's find out, shall we? So let's take a look at the short to see whether I think it is a good or bad short of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo. The short begins with the gang attending the circus. Shaggy and Scooby are terrified by a poster of a lion and rush in where they are terrified even further by an annoyed gorilla. Short on funds, the gang can't see any of the exhibits, so they get a job selling hot dogs, peanuts, and popcorn. Unfortunately, they eat all the food as they stand back and watch all the entertainment. The boss spots that they've eaten all the food, so the gang run away in fear. Chasing the trio around the circus, we get lots of circus-based hijinks. For one gag, we get Scooby and Shaggy dressed up as a lion and Scrappy as a lion tamer. Unfortunately, Scrappy leads them to a real lion where they end up putting on quite the show for the audience. The gang disguise themselves further by dressing as clowns and are drawn into a high-wire act involving a clever seal. Finally, they are launched far as human cannonballs. The audience is impressed, which makes the boss happy enough to hire them as performers. And the short ends with Scrappy happy about this news, but Scooby and Shaggy run off in fear.
We can tame the tigers!
Forget it!
Dive through a flaming hoop! We'll be a smash!
Well, Scooby-Dooby-Doo!
I'm going to give Season 2, Episode 4A of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo 2 stars out of 5. So yeah, this was another not-so-great short, but it was below average, which is very rare, to be quite honest. So it was at least, somewhat better than most of the shorts we've come across so far. I think this is the third short I've given a 2-star rating to, and I give it that because, even though it was still not a great short and was still bad and still filled with the dumb, wacky hijinks shenanigans that plague a lot of these shorts, it was at least a little bit more tolerable this time around. The hijinks and shenanigans, while being stupid and dumb and being still time wasters, were at least somewhat tolerable and weren't as egregious and as bad as most shorts in the Scrappy Doo era. So, before I get into the negatives of this particular short and why I think it's still a bad short, despite being one of the better ones and is still below average, I'll first get into the positives of the short and explain why the short isn't downright awful, in my opinion. So starting with the positives, my first one is I think Shaggy and Scooby were not too bad in the short. They fulfilled their basic roles and were their usual cowardly selves. I don't think they were funny. I don't think they really had any humor going for them, but they were cowardly and at least showcased that and fulfilled their basic roles. So they at least stood out in some way and didn't feel like background characters or feel useless. They actually did something noteworthy in the short. And my final positive is I found the setting of the short to actually be pretty good. The main setting of the short was the circus. The circus doesn't have a particular name, it's just called the circus. And we haven't had a circus setting in quite a long time, which was cool. I think not since Bedlam and the Big Top have we really had a circus setting, so I did like that we hadn't seen the setting in quite a long time and they brought it back. But it also had a lot of cool set pieces in it, and it genuinely was a nice place to explore. So it was a setting we hadn't explored in a long time, and it also had some neat and cool set pieces, which makes it at least like one of the better settings of the Scrappy Doo era shorts. But that's all I got for positives. So I think it's about time we get on to the negatives of the short and explain why the short is still bad and below average in my opinion. So starting with the negatives, my first one is that Fred, Daphne, and Velma were completely absent from the short. You guys know by now, you guys know I don't like any member of the gang missing. I hate that. I feel like it's unnecessary. Every member of the gang is vital to the story and should always be a part of every single episode. There is no reason we should have any member of the gang absent. Just like we don't need additional characters, we don't need any member of the gang absent. So I don't like that Fred, Daphne, and Velma are absent from this particular short. Then we have Scrappy. Scrappy was pretty weak in the short. He just wasn't really that noteworthy. He didn't really do anything major in this particular short. He was just fun, having a fun time at the circus and just excited to be there, but he wasn't really noteworthy per se. He wasn't his usual annoying self. He didn't beat up innocent people or create stupid traps. He more so just didn't really stand out and was just kind of there. Like, he didn't really do anything major or noteworthy in this particular short. He was just kind of there. Next, we have the villain of the short, who I thought was weak as well. So the main villain of the short is the boss. The boss doesn't have a specific name. He's just referred to as the boss. He's Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy's boss at the circus when they get the job. And the boss isn't scary or entertaining. He's just a regular human-ass dude. Like, he's just a regular, normal dude. He's an everyday guy, and he's not really anything special. He's not a real monster or a ghost. He's not a guy dressed up. He's just a normal dude doing his job. And I don't find him scary or intimidating or creepy or threatening. And I don't find him entertaining or fun to watch. He's just kind of there. He's mad at Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy for eating the merchandise, or specifically, you know, the food that was going to the profits, as he refers to it, and eats it all. And to be honest, I can't really blame him, because Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy were tasked with, you know, that's their job, to get that, to sell that food so they can earn some money. And they just screwed that up. So I get why he would be upset with them, and I feel like he's not really, you know, an eccentric villain per se. He's just kind of a normal dude who's just upset with his employees for not really doing their job properly. There's also no outside of costume element. The boss isn't in any sort of costume. He's just himself. Like, there's no costume element. There's no mystery to the villain's identity. It is literally devoid of it, of any sort of mystery to the villain's identity or any outside of costume element. It's just a guy who's a boss at the circus who wants to make money and gets pissed at Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy for not doing their job correctly. There were also no suspects in this short. This was due to the fact that, like I said before, there's no mystery to the villain's identity. And because there's no costume element to the villain and he's just a regular human dude, there's no, like, pool of suspects to gauge from, you know, to kind of decide, you know, who could be the villain behind the costume, because there is no costume element. I found there to be no motive in the short, which is odd considering that we actually do have a villain in the short. But honestly, I could not find a motive for him. I mean, he gets mad at Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy for eating the profits, as he calls them, which is the food that they were supposed to sell. And Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy run off. He goes after them, and I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know if he was trying to catch them to make them pay for, you know, all the food they ate by, like, working for it. Like, basically continuing to work for him to pay off, like, the money that they would have owned if they had, you know, paid for that, you know, all that food. Or if he was going to harm them, or, you know, or something else. Like, I don't know what his intentions were, because at the end, he was happy that they were a hit and tried to sign them with up with the contract and have them be with the circus. So he was just unhappy that, you know, profits weren't being made. But it's not clear what he was planning to do with Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy if he did catch them. Was he going to just make them work to essentially pay off their dues for eating the profits? Or was he going to be malicious and not a great boss and potentially hurt them or harm them or beat them up because he's angry? I don't know. The short's not very straightforward with exactly what his motive is. So for me, I really can't find a motive for the boss. I feel like the boss is just kind of like, the only real goal for him is that he just wants to make profits, which makes sense because he's the boss of a circus. He's a boss of a business. Of course he wants to make money. So I don't really feel like that's his motive. And I don't know why he goes after Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy. I don't know what his intentions are. So at the end of the day, I just have to assume that he really doesn't have a motive, and for some reason just chases Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy around for no reason other than he's just angry at them. But what was he planning to do with them if he got his hands on them? I don't know. The short's not very straightforward with his intentions. There's also no mystery in the short. There's no lingering questions that I want answered throughout this particular short. It is literally, like I said, just 7 minutes of wacky, dumb hijinks and shenanigans, a lot of set pieces, not really any sort of overlying mystery or story or plot. Just Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy wanting to experience the circus, using the job as an excuse, fucking it up, and then hijinks and shenanigans for 7 minutes ensue until, it's time for the short to end, essentially. So there's really no overlying mystery or no sort of lingering questions that I want answered throughout this particular short. There's also no clues in the short. Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy find no sort of clues to help narrow down the list of suspects, because there is no pool of suspects, because the villain is just a normal dude. There's no costume element to it. There's no mystery to the villain's identity. Or to help point towards a motive, because the villain doesn't have a motive in this particular short. His intentions are not really explained well and spilled out to the audience, so we're not really sure what he was intending to do if he got his hands on Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy. So there's no real sort of clues that they find that help do either of these functions. And my final negative is I found there to be no atmosphere in the short. I felt no tension or suspense or creepiness or eeriness from either the main villain of the short or the setting. I wasn't fearing for the gang's safety. I wasn't on the edge of my seat wondering what was going to happen next. Didn't find anything creepy or eerie about the villain or the setting. It was very devoid of any sort of atmosphere. It was basically, like I said, just 7 minutes of set pieces and dumb, wacky hijinks and shenanigans. Nothing really special. No sort of atmosphere. No creepiness or eeriness. No tension or suspense that is lingering throughout the short. It is literally just as bare bones as it gets. It is just fun, wacky, kiddie hijinks and shenanigans for 7 minutes, essentially. Overall, guys, I would personally not recommend this short to fans and newcomers of the show. Like I said, it's another dumb short that's just filled with dumb, wacky hijinks and shenanigans for 7 minutes, and was only tolerable due to the setting and some of the cool set pieces that the circus had to offer. If it wasn't for the circus setting and the set pieces it had, I honestly think this would just be another terrible short. But it's tolerable enough mainly due to the setting. I think the setting really saves this short. Otherwise, if the setting wasn't as strong, if I hadn't seen the circus setting in a long time and the circus setting didn't have all these cool set pieces, it would be just another run-of-the-mill terrible short. But as it stands, it's one of the more tolerable shorts, but it's still not great. So I wouldn't really bother with this one, even though it's not as bad as most of the shorts so far. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the review. Please give a like if you did. Comment down below your thoughts on the short. Do you like the short? Do you think I'm being too harsh on it? Do you disagree with me? Do you think there are more positives that you see that I don't see? Do you hate the short? I'd be interested in that as well. Do you agree with me? Do you think this is a below average short that has some positives? Or do you think it's even worse and is a downright awful and terrible short that has no redeeming qualities? Or are you somewhere in the middle where you think it's average and decent and okay, but it's neither good nor bad? I'm curious for your thoughts, let me know. And subscribe for more Scooby Doo content like this, or if you're just interested in my other content, obviously I have more Scooby Doo reviews on the way. This is a Scooby focused channel, so we cover all things ranging from the TV shows, movies, video games, and books. So if you're a diehard fan like me, or even just a casual or a newcomer, and you love talking all things Scooby Doo, and want to celebrate Scooby Doo, and celebrate what makes it iconic, talk about why it works, what doesn't make it work, what does make it work, why it's a great cartoon franchise, why it's endured for this many years, and want to join in on each individual discussion for each individual TV show episode review, movie review, video game let's player review, or book review, then come join the channel and experience some amazing Scooby Doo content. And finally, before I let you guys go, I recently created a YouTube membership. It's nothing major, nothing special, just an extra way to help support me and the channel. If you guys want to, I would really appreciate that. If you do decide to join my YouTube membership, you'll get a few extra perks, such as, you know, if you join the Mystery Solver tier, you'll get custom loyalty badges, custom emojis. You'll essentially get shout-outs at the end of my videos, as well as in my video descriptions. You'll have the ability to chat with me in public live streams in the future, depending on if I do that, where you can only send messages. And you'll also see personal, you know, updates, as well as behind-the-scenes photos that I don't share anywhere else. You can also join at the Master Sleuth tier, where you get all the things mentioned above, the things I mentioned previously, as well as access to exclusive polls where you guys get the first say on, you know, determining on what I can do for the future of this channel, for like secondary projects, other than, you know, the mainline stuff like TV shows. You'll be able to determine, like, not just Scooby Doo related stuff, but maybe even non-Scooby Doo related stuff that I maybe want to cover on the channel in the future. You'll also get early access to new videos before anyone else. So if you're interested in joining my YouTube membership, I would really appreciate it. In my next video, I will be back tomorrow to continue my reviews of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo with a review Season 2, Episode 4B of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, titled Scooby's Fantastic Island. I'm not really sure what to expect with this short, but considering all the shorts have been terrible up to this point, none of them have really surprised me. I expect it's going to be the same old, probably the same old shit, nothing new, probably another terrible short, but you never know. So if you guys are curious about my thoughts on Season 2, Episode 4B of Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo, you know, Scooby's Fantastic Island, then basically just come join me tomorrow. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, peace out.